Salut French 101 students, bienvenue au vidéo 9 du chapitre préliminaire. So we are now on video 9, our final video of the preliminary chapter. So we're beyond the basics now, we're finishing up the basics, and we're getting ready to move on to bigger and better things in chapter 1. Okay, so the last topic we'll be talking about here for chapitre préliminaire is l'alphabet. And as you will see, this is the same exact word we use in English, we just pronounce it differently in French. So the T is silent at the end, l'alphabet. And anytime you're learning a new language, you always need to learn some differences between the alphabets. Every language has its own unique alphabet. Of course, French and English, our alphabets are very similar to each other. We use the same writing system. There are some symbols that are a little bit different, which you'll learn more about on or in the second half of this presentation. Some accent marks and some other marks, like in the word ça that we see right here. You'll see the little tail on the end of this word. So that's another slight difference between the English and the French alphabet. Okay, so we'll begin by looking at a few questions that you might ask, let's say, your French teacher or your French professor if you needed to know how to spell a word, or maybe you're visiting a French-speaking country, like all the different countries you've been writing about in your cultural discovery projects. You might want to ask people how to write something, so these will be useful questions. So the first one is, ça s'écrit comment? And just to break that down, this French question is really kind of like the mirror image of the English question that's underneath it. The word comment, you might already realize, means how. So that comes at the end of the French question. The English question begins with that word. Okay, the beginning of the French question is basically that is written, s'écrit, how. Okay, so instead of saying how is that written in French, it's kind of like saying that is written how. Ça s'écrit comment? Okay, so the second question would be, ça s'écrit, we already recognize that from the first one, so that is written. Et avec, with, ou sans, without, accent. When I say it all together, it would be ça s'écrit avec ou sans accent. So notice that when the S, this normally silent S at the end of sans, when it's joined onto a word that begins with a vowel, we have a liaison and we pronounce the S. Okay, so there you're just asking, is that written with or without an accent? So you'll learn more about accent marks in just a few minutes. You've already seen some of them in different words you've been learning. And the final question, ça s'écrit, that's written, avec un ou deux S. So one or two S's. Okay, you notice that normally de, the S is silent, but because S, even though it doesn't look like it would be starting with a vowel sound because it's just the letter S, but when you say it, you will realize that it actually is a vowel sound at the beginning, S. So it becomes deux S. So ça s'écrit avec un ou deux S en français ou anglais, so you might be asking about a spelling in French or in English. Okay, now moving on to the actual alphabet itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll move myself out of the way here a little bit. All right, so we have all the letters of the French alphabet in capital letters, and these letters can kind of be adjusted by using accent marks or other symbols, which I will tell you about shortly. And you notice after each letter, there's kind of a pronunciation of each letter. I will go through those with you very soon. And each of those letters, some of them have accent marks, some of them don't. So let me just kind of go through the different accent marks and tell you what they mean. So the first one is called an accent aigu. Aigu kind of means like something a little sharp almost. And this is sort of a stronger sounding accent mark. So when you see an E like this, let's see, I can give you an example word here and I'll just type it in red. So let's say a familiar word like téléphoner. That accent mark just tells you that this sounds like like kind of a stronger sounding E sound, almost like the AI combination that you see here in rain. But in French, that sound, that A sound, it's a little shorter. It's not as drawn out as it is in English. In the word rain, the vowel sound lasts a little bit longer. But in French, it's a little shorter. Téléphoner. The other accent mark you will run across is called the accent grave, and that's going in the other direction, to the left. And you might see that in a word like, for example, même, which means the same. So that just tells you that that E with that little accent mark, oh, that's actually not the one I wanted to show you. Let me see. A good one would be the verb préfère. Whoops. And this shows a good contrast between these two sounds. So the first of the E's in this word has the accent aigu, and that's pré, et. But the second of these E's, the one going in the other direction, it's kind of a lighter sounding E, almost like the E in bed. So it's je préfère, faire. So a little bit like that bed sound. So just to know that those are two different sounds, depending on the accent mark that's above that vowel. Okay, another example of an accent mark is the accent circonflexe. So a good example of this, okay, would be, I'll just put this over here really quick and unbold it. All right, there we've got what we need. Okay, so a perfect example of this would be the word âge. And I think this is more just like a spelling rule. I don't think it really affects the sound in any way. Other words are spelled with an A like this and have the same sound without the accent mark, but sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. So if I ask you, quel âge as-tu? How old are you? You need to put that accent circonflexe over the A. The E tréma, the double dot over the I in this case, Haiti would be a perfect example of that, except that in French, Haiti is pronounced as Haiti. The H is silent, as it is in many French words. And the A and the I are supposed to be pronounced separately and distinctively. In English, we sort of roll it together into one sound, A, like rain. No, Haiti. In French, it's pronounced distinctly. So, A-E-T. That's why that double dot is there. It's to indicate to you that you need to separate those two sounds. Okay, the c'est, c'est dit, you've already seen before. I pointed out an example of that to you in the first slide with the word ça. Oops, wrong symbol. And I don't seem to be getting the right ones for some reason. Sometimes these just don't cooperate. Oh, it's giving me the wrong one, even though I'm putting in the right code. But you get the point. It has a little tail at the end of it, and all that does is it shows to you that that has a sound like an S. So it's c'est, and that's what that little symbol is called. Okay, as for the other symbols you see there, that might be a little bit different. Apostrophe is the same as an apostrophe in English, although in French it's not used to show possession like it is in English. Trait d'union would be like a hyphen in English. And then the double L, which it kind of has like a light y sound, like cédille. We don't use double L in the same way. You could almost consider it like its own separate sound, as it is in the Spanish alphabet. So it's just good to be aware of that too. Okay, so what I will do next is I'm just going to take a minute or two to go through all the letters of the alphabet. I'm going to pronounce them for you. And then I'm just going to put one interaction into this video if you'd like to practice it. You can pick any of the names that you see here, from A all the way through Z. Pick any of them, and you can practice spelling one of those names using the French letters. So it will be a way for you to test that out. Okay, so I'll go through, say the names of the letters in the alphabet. You can hear them, practice them a few times, and then jump in and record yourself saying one of these names using the French letters, the way that they're pronounced in French. Okay, so I'll start from the top. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, a couple quick things to point out. It always confuses people, and it did for me for the longest time too. The letters G, and I'm gonna just do a quick highlight there, and J. Okay, these sound the opposite to the way they sound in English. It's super easy to mix them up for that reason. So J sounds like J in English, but it's actually G. Okay, J sounds like G in English, but it's actually J. So just be aware of those. And another one you might be interested in knowing a little bit more about is Y is like Greek I. That's literally what that means. And you also notice that V and W is like double V. So just a couple of interesting things to point out about the alphabet. Okay, so just to wrap up the video, you're welcome to choose any one of these names and go ahead and spell it. Okay, I can do An as an example, and that would be A-N-N-E. Okay, so you're welcome to jump in and do your own recording. Hey, à la prochaine!